Part 6, Investing.
We've talked about investing in general terms, in particular, how savings and investing are related. Now let's get more specific about investing and the role that risk tolerance plays in your investment decisions. But first, let's go back and think about this whole investment thing.
Why invest at all?
Good question. One possible answer is maybe you don't need to. If you have enough money to live the lifestyle you want for the rest of your life without taking any investment risk, perhaps you shouldn't. But before you answer this question, don't forget to consider the following factors.
Over time, inflation is likely to have an enormous impact on purchasing power. For example, in 1967 it cost 5 cents to mail a letter. 30 years later, it costs 32 cents, and that's not even counting the cost of the envelope.
You may be forced to retire earlier than you anticipate. We've all heard stories of aging employees that have been downsized and/or given an early retirement with reduced benefits.
For all these reasons, it makes sense to invest your savings in order to maximize your ability to provide for yourself and your family in the future.
If you're already an investor, it may be because you believe investing is the best chance for your money to outlive you, rather than running the risk that you outlive your money. Or you may invest because you hope to accumulate wealth for yourself and/or future generations. Or maybe it's just something to talk about at parties. Whatever your motivation, you want to take steps to make informed decisions when you invest.
There are 3 main factors that will affect how you choose to invest your savings. They are financial goals, time horizon, and risk tolerance. Let's look at each one in turn.
First are your financial goals. We talked a lot about setting goals earlier in this tape, and investing is where we start making the financial choices to make those goals a reality.
Second is your time horizon. Your time horizon is simply how long you plan to invest. We learned earlier about how time affects our investments. Our time horizon will greatly affect the type of investments we make and the amount of risk we can tolerate.
And third is your risk tolerance. Risk tolerance refers to the level of risk you want to take in your investments. As a general rule, investments that give a higher return usually carry a higher level of risk. This is why secure investments, such as bank savings accounts, CDs, and treasuries, pay a low rate of interest. However, all investments involve some degree of risk.
When talking about risk tolerance, there are 3 main categories: conservative, moderate, and aggressive, with subcategories in between. Coincidentally, these are also the same categories that describe a desire for ice cream, but that's not important right now. Let's look at these investment categories in more detail.
The conservative investor is one who doesn't like to take on a lot of risk. The main goal here is to preserve the initial investment, the capital, and to maintain a high level of liquidity, meaning the investment can be turned into cash quickly.
In between conservative and moderate, there is a subcategory appropriately called conservative to moderate. The goals for this investor are to preserve capital and generate income. To accomplish this, a slightly greater tolerance of risk is necessary, but overall, investments are pretty safe.
The moderate category is for investors that accept some possible principal loss for the sake of achieving a higher return. Overall risk is lessened, though, through diversification and asset allocation, meaning that moderate investors don't have all their eggs in one basket.
Next is another subcategory called moderate to aggressive. Here, investors are willing to accept more risk, both in the types of investments they choose and in the concentration of their investments, meaning that their portfolios aren't as diversified or protected against downswings than the moderate investor.
The aggressive investor is focused solely on attaining the highest return possible and along the way is willing to sustain losses. Aggressive investors are more likely to make speculative investment choices and to weather the ups and downs of the market.
Understanding your tolerance for risk is a major factor in what types of investment decisions you make. These categories will help you see where you fall on the investment spectrum and what type of investment decisions make you the most comfortable.
Now it's time to establish an asset allocation strategy. Asset allocation refers to how we diversify our investments among different asset classes, namely equities, fixed income, and cash. We don't want to lose our shirts on one underperforming asset class, so we need to spread our dollars around to ensure that we're protected.
Investing in equities involves ownership in the shares of public companies through the purchase of common stocks or mutual funds that hold those kinds of securities.
Investing in fixed income involves lending money to corporations and the government through bonds and other fixed income securities.
Investing in cash refers to, well, cash, money market funds, and certificates of deposits, CDs, or other investments that are redeemable in 1 year or less without penalty.
Asset allocation should be determined based upon your individual situation, goals, holding period, and risk tolerance, with the assistance of a financial advisor. For now, to get a handle on this stuff, let's look at 4 sample asset allocation profiles.
First, a 25-year-old aggressive growth emerging investor's asset allocation might be 80% stocks, 10% bonds, and 10% treasury bills. The focus here is on stocks, which are the riskier investments, with very little in safer investments such as bonds and treasury bills. Since the investor is young and has a lot of time to ride out the ups and downs of the market, a more aggressive approach might be appropriate. The focus here is wealth accumulation.
Second, a 40-year-old long-term growth investor's asset allocation is likely to play it a bit more safe, but not totally, with 70% in stocks, 25% in bonds, and 5% in treasury bills. There's still plenty of time to weather losses in the market, but overall the stocks should be in strongly positioned companies and industries to limit risk. The focus here is also wealth accumulation.
Third, a 60-year-old. Income and growth pre-retiree investor's asset allocation is likely to have a balanced approach, containing 40% stocks, 50% bonds, and 10% treasury bills. The focus here is wealth preservation.
Finally, a 75-year-old retired income investor would have an asset allocation that focuses on stable investments with 10% in stock, 55% in bonds, and 35% in treasury bills. Now the focus is on wealth transfer, meaning transfer to the individual to use for living expenses or transfer to other family members.
All of these examples are hypothetical cases which are based on historical information intended for comparison purposes only.
While this is a pretty heavy disclaimer, these profiles can help you think about how to invest based on where you are in life.
Once you've determined how to diversify among asset classes, you'll need to make many other investment-related decisions regarding your portfolio.